about MeToo, and we're going to have to go through this real fast. What happened to me? I wish I could tell you every story, but I don't have time. And I'm going to cut. I'm not going to start where it was going to start. I'm going to go right to my stories. When I was with the estimator, an estimator with the big electrician, there was a guy there who was the assistant chief estimator. And estimating, you all know, comes in spurts. You can be working around the clock on a big job, getting the bid in. And then there won't be anything major for another couple of weeks, and then you'll get another. So we had time in between. And what this guy did, this assistant, would hold court with all the young people, and he would, talk to them about the old days. I think it was a CB from the Navy. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he would attack me. What's the matter with you? Why do you want to be a man? What kind of a woman are you? And this would go on, and I'd stand there and take it, which is interesting. And I internalized it. And this is a true story, and it's sad for me to say this, but I'm going to share it because you're going to benefit from this. I let it get to me. I started not really caring about the way I looked. I stopped wearing makeup. I didn't really comb my hair. I was thinking maybe something was wrong with me. And that went on. Finally, I straightened out, and I got another job. This was when I moved into the field with the general contractor. And then I got into the actual field when I was working as a superintendent and a mechanical super. The harassment that I endured was horrible. I can give you examples. I don't want to. But suffice it to say, I took it all in. And I blamed myself for it, like rape victims do. I thought it was my fault. I thought I did something wrong. Here I am showing it up at the job site in an old army jacket from the Vietnam War and jeans, and you couldn't tell from looking at me, if it was you were 20 feet away, I would look like one of the crowd. But I'm getting all this sex talk and all this other stuff, and I'm thinking, what did I do? Did I encourage this? Did I do something wrong? Don't ever let this happen to you, okay? It is never the victim's fault. But I did. And this changed me. All of this changed me. And I was a different person because of that. And real quickly, I'm going to say that a point in time came when I thought I had missed my opportunity to have kids. I thought that I had chosen an industry that wouldn't let me do that. And that was foreclosed for me. And a miracle happened, and I had kids. I wouldn't have. I mean, I was just so into what I was doing in my career that I let that happen to me. I became a different person. And when I went to Catholic school, if you said hell in my mother's house, you got soap in your mouth. There was no question about that. And here I am. F word, F word, F word. Because you couldn't do anything else. You couldn't, if you didn't do it, they would say they can't talk around you. And when you did it, they called you patty mouth. But real stories about people walking into meetings where I'm the only girl and talking about, oh, Barbara's so great, she's got balls under her skirt, Like that was something nice to say, that was a compliment. Anyway, I wish I could take more time on this, but the bottom line is I didn't realize all of this until I saw what they did to Anita Hill in the Clarence Thomas confirmation hearings. This woman who had the bravery, and she didn't volunteer it, she was sort of coaxed into it and pushed into it to complain about a venal harasser, went up there and to stop the United States from having a Supreme Court justice that was a sexual harasser. And they grilled her. They excoriated her. They said, what the hell is, they didn't say, what's the matter with you? Why didn't you quit? And you've heard our president say, if a woman's harassed, she should quit. Why didn't you quit the job? Why did you take it? You're lying. This didn't happen. And I sat there, and I was glued to the TV set. And I realized I know the answer to that question. What's the answer? Because I did it. I did all of that. I took all of that shit, excuse the expression. I let them get to me. And why did I do that? Because I had no choice. That was the business I was in. What was I going to do, go run to a contractor that didn't have mean guys, that picked on women? Changed my attitude about everything. It was like a rebirth for me, and it helped me to deal with some of the things that I have had to deal with. And I don't want this happening to you. So what do we do when this kind of thing happens, when you're harassed at work? And I'm going to say that you've got to deal with it in several ways. Number one, something happens, tell your girlfriends, tell the women you work with, tell your mentor. And by the way, everyone has to have a mentor, and it should be a woman. So young women should seek out women with experience. They don't have to be the president of the company, just women that have been there. And older women that have the experience, be a mentor. It's the most important work you can do. If somebody doesn't come to you, you go out there and you find somebody. It's giving back. And women, that's what it's going to be, women and women. I'm going to sort of skip a lot of important stuff here. I want to stress a couple of things. Number one, 10% of harassments are reported, okay? 10%. If you get into court, and this would have made more sense with something else I was going to say, but if you get into court, the chances of winning in court are 4%. People want you to believe that poor men, they're being dragged into court. And first of all, the complaints, most of them don't get addressed, or they get addressed on the local level. A lot of times, there are no results, nothing gained. And what happens to the woman? She becomes a troublemaker, and she's known as that. And there are retaliations, there's retributions. So women don't complain. But if something happens to you, here's what you do. First of all, you write it down. You talk to other women. You talk to your mentor. You keep track of this. If it's really bad, then you got to report it. But before you do that, you go up to the guy and you talk to him and you say, I don't like this and I want you to stop. Because two reasons. Number one, some of these guys with pornography in our society and everything else, some of these guys actually believe women like this. Oh, I thought, I didn't know. I thought that we were bantering. So you must, and I can't say it again, you must tell the harasser that he is hurting you and you don't want it to go on. Then the next thing is keep a record, and if it's bad, maybe you got to complain. If it's not so bad, if you've learned from me, if you've learned from your sisters in the business, if you've learned from your mentor to not take this personally, not let it get to you, not internalize it and change you, let it go. Let it go, because it is not worth it. You're going to find that it's not worth it. Life is cruel. Life is unfair. This is what happens. This is the industry we're in. This is the road we've chosen. So we've got to be self-help. We've got to make it better for us to control. Oh, I have 7 minutes. I control what's happening to us and work with other women and help us overcome this sexual harassment. Now, if it's bad, first of all, if you get assaulted, you go to the company, you call the police. No questions about it, no ifs, ands, or buts. But if it's something that, is repeated, then you got to report it. And you got to go through company protocol. You got to do it the right way. If it still gets repeated after that, if the company doesn't do anything about it, you may have to do an EEOC complaint or a lawsuit. EEOC is Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. And they will take sexual harassment complaints. And there are not many. Go look at the statistics. Oh, men, we can't talk to women anymore. Anything you say, they're going to drag you in on a sexual harassment claim. It is so wrong. This doesn't happen. And when you finally get to court, when you're in that courtroom, and the test is, did this guy, and it's usually a guy, sometimes guy on guy, sometimes it's a woman on man. I could talk about that for 10 hours. But as far as that particular circumstance is concerned, man on woman, you have to show two things, and this is a Supreme Court decision that requires this. One, it has to be severe. The judge has to think it is really, really bad. And number two, it has to be pervasive. It can't just happen once. It's got to be, unless it's really severe, it's got to be repeated. And I'll give you two cases where this was not overcome. A woman whose breasts were fondled by a boss. Judge said, not severe. A man who was threatened with rape 2 or 3 times by his supervisor. Judge said, not pervasive. So that'll give you an idea of what you're up against. And I'm not discouraging people from reporting. I think you should report, especially if it's happening to someone else. You get together with that other person, and the two of you go together. And by the way, going back to when you tell the perpetrator that you don't like it, have someone with you. So that when he comes up and he stands in court and he says, I didn't know that she didn't like it. Intent, lawyers, there's no intent, there's no crime, right? You have something to put the lie to that. And they'll all say it. They'll all say that. And that's a lot of the cases, and not so much in court, but in the tribunals and the company hearing boards and stuff like that. I didn't know. Okay, because they don't want it to be sexual harassment in their companies. They want it all to go away. They want things to be hunky-dory. The best bet a woman has to win is to get a settlement, because companies don't want this getting out, that they've got all these programs that don't work, by the way, that are designed by white men. And, you know, if I had time going back to it, getting women into the C-suites, making the decisions. Sure, they're on the diversity panels. Yeah, they're on the diversity panels. But they're not going to mandate that they're not going to decide that we're going to have a mandate 10% women. That comes from the top of the echelon. So we got to get more women up there. But going back to this idea of settlement, that's that you see it with some of the big MeToo cases now. Getting the settlement as opposed to going into court, because in court you're probably going to lose. It's just that severe and pervasive is a high standard. Let me leave you with one other thing, and now I actually am going to use this. This is a tweet from our president. And he says, I gave a woman named Barbara Ress a top New York construction job. He gave me that job, when that was unheard of. And now she is nasty. First nasty woman. So much for a nice thank you, he says. And the next slide is me. I asked my daughter to make a sign for me saying, I'm the woman that built Trump Tower. I was thinking something like this. She did this humongous sign. She's a photographer. And we went to the Women's March, the first one, 2017, with that sign. And believe it or not, you can see Bad Gal Riri on the top. This is an Instagram photo. Rihanna put it on Instagram. It got 1,047,925 likes. I was in, my son was in a lot of different papers that covered the signs, and it was just the most incredible experience. I can't tell you, if you were there, you know what it was like. The camaraderie, the joy, the energy, the commitment to doing something, it was palpable. It was amazing to me. And I had a meeting with a friend of mine from college. We had dinner after the march, and you know, we went to this bar, and he was a restaurant, and we were sitting at the bar, and people were talking about the march, and my friend said to me, he was a doubter, you know, he's actually a conservative, and how he's my friend, I don't know, but anyway, well, did you learn anything? What did you learn? And I said, yeah, I learned 2 things, and here's what I learned. If it's going to happen, if change is going to happen, if success is going to happen, it's going to be the women that do it. Stop looking up to men to do this for us. And the second thing was, the time is now. And you see it. You see it everywhere. You saw it with MeToo. You saw it with the midterm elections. So we got to keep that up. And I know that you're going to. I'm proud of you. You are the best of the brightest as far as I'm concerned, because you wouldn't be here if you weren't. So let's do it. Thank you.